Today we're going to talk about post-truth politics. Post-truth politics refers to a political culture where the distinction between what's true and what's false has become almost irrelevant. This again has created an environment where instead of stating facts, the debaters appeal to the audience's emotions. Of course, there's nothing new in politicians lying to people. I mean, that's just called politics.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
But at some point, the people stopped caring about the factuality of these claims and focused more on how it made them feel.
Bad, good, any feelings?
Fake narratives that involve strong, primitive feelings like fear, anger, or disgust work surprisingly well, especially when you're talking shit about your opponent.
Run for president.
I know you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is principled.
Tough.
You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so
Doesn't matter.
Far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better.
Nowadays, when people talk about post-truth politics, it is usually in connection with the 2016 US presidential election and with the Brexit referendum of 2016.
London and the suburbs voting to stay, and Scotland and Northern Ireland overwhelmingly pro-EU.
Actually, 2016 was also the year when the word post-truth politics was added to the Oxford Dictionary. But even though the term is relatively new, the post-truth society had been reality in the Soviet Union for decades. By the mid-80s, there was no connection between the Soviet leadership's propaganda and the everyday life the common folk lived, and the country had become a place where no one believed in anything. But the system made everyone to play along and pretend that it was real because nobody could come up with any better alternative. The Russians and the Soviets even have a word for these transparent lies, vranyo. It dates to the Mongol rule when violence and lying was a way to survive under their harsh rule. Journalist and author Elena Gorokova defined vranyo as follows. Someone lies to us, we know that they're lying, they know that we know, and they keep on lying anyway while we pretend to believe them. Vranyo, a tactical lie, has been used constantly by the Kremlin during the Russia-Ukrainian war and will be used in the future too.
Yeah, Putin continues to justify attacking Ukraine as a denazification of the country. But as CNN's Brian Todd explains, that notion is simply absurd.
You know, the war which we are trying to stop and which was launched against us using Ukraine.
Russian casualties, Skripal and Navalny poisonings, Ukrainian Nazis, bioweapons labs in Ukraine, we all know that these are lies, but some pretend otherwise. In Russia, truth has shades of grey, whereas in the West we think more in black and white. Something is either true or false. Again, Russians use these shades of grey against us with their propaganda. Modern way of interacting via social media platforms has amplified the power of post-truth politics. News travel extremely quick online, and fact-checking has little to no effect because the process is simply too slow. Since lying has no real consequences, then it can actually help you in elections.
Weren't you afraid?
No, ma'am, but they tied me in a big sack.
Post-truth politics combined with populism has become one of the most common methods of making politics today. Just lie your way all the way to the top.
All the way to the top.
That's it.
Fueled by conspiracy theories and disinformation, there's a growing skepticism towards traditional sources of authority, including government, media, and science. This distrust fuels the post-truth environment where alternative facts can easily and quickly gain traction. Unfortunately, modern social media sites have no functional tools for filtering out disinformation and bullshit, and these platforms are extremely vulnerable to state-organized propaganda campaigns and conspiracy theories. Social media sites also create echo chambers where individuals are exposed primarily to information that reinforces their existing beliefs, often without any fact-checking. In other words, most people never get the other perspective. When you combine all this with algorithms that prioritize engagement and even addiction over user safety, you have an extremely powerful tool for post-truth politics. Therefore, post-truth politics pose a challenge for democratic processes. When voters can't agree on basic facts, it complicates rational debate. Of course, the person who is most often identified with both truth politics and populism is Donald Trump.
Mr. President, after 3.5 years, do you regret it all the lying you've done to the American people? On
All the what?
everything. All the lying, all the dishonesties.
That who has done?
You have done.
In June of 2015, Trump and his campaign workers weaponized the post-truth politics on a whole new level in the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States.
But Donald's pathological lying had started long before, going back to his real estate days starting in the 70s.
There are a lot of things to do. You know, a fertile imagination and a good fertile mind, Mike, it's really amazing what can be thought of. There are so many things to do.
Politics?
So many. No, not politics.
Trump Organization's executive vice president Barbara Reyes said that after a while no one believed a single word he would say. After becoming the president, Trump's lying became so common that the Washington Post started tracking the factuality of his statements with their fact-checking department. By January of 2021, Trump had lied over 30,000 times during his term as the president. This amounted to approximately 21 lies per day. This lying continued after the 2020 US presidential election, when Trump and his gang tried to overturn the election results in his favor.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
And of course also during the 2024 elections, where Trump used lies to attack the Democrats, the immigrants, and basically anyone who didn't support his policies. To conclude, post-truth politics represents a significant shift in how information influences our political discourse. While it challenges traditional notions of democratic debate based on shared facts, it also underscores the need for better education, media literacy, and perhaps a re-evaluation of how we consume and verify information in the digital age. But for now, I say goodbye to you, my friends and soup lovers. We'll meet again soon on the next episode of the Soup Central.